KindaSound Radio. We're tuning in for change.
Welcome to the KindaSound Astrology Show with me, Stella Grace. I'm so excited to share with you today this content. It's such a big portal of energy that we are in and such an exciting time for manifestation. So today we're going to cover our topic, new moon manifestations, as well as we go through the show, looking at this huge portal of incredible energy with lots of other factors in the sky at play at the moment that are enabling us to really shine and be authentic and be courageous. And I just love this energy. We're going to start with our topic, and all the shows on KindaSound are replayed the following day. So for the KindaSound Astrology Show, it will be 10 a.m. on the Saturday, and all the other shows will replay the following day at the same time that they are first aired. So let's get into it. Our topic, new moon manifestations. So I'm going to give you some information that's generally transferable to new moons. We're going to talk about how to manifest as well, because some of us might be away with this energy already, doing regular manifesting work and really kind of into it. And other people might be thinking, actually, what is manifesting and how do I actually do that? You know, we hear this term, we hear many terms, don't we, banded around on social media and in places. And actually, what is it? What do we actually do for manifesting? So I'm going to talk about my practices, and you can see if they resonate with you to try. And you may well have some of your own. I'd love to hear about yours. If you want to get in touch with us, either to ask a question that I will have answered for you by next week's show, or just to drop us some feedback or some chat. We'd love to hear your manifestation tips and tools. You can contact us on @KindaSound Radio on Instagram or our KindaSound Radio page on Facebook. So let's get into it. So huge portal of energy, and we are going to start with the new moon and solar eclipse this weekend on the 8th of April. We are looking at the new moon in Aries. Now, this has so much potency because it is firstly the first new moon of the astrological year. So we're still in really new year energy, real big time of fresh new beginnings and dynamic energy. And that is not least because it's Aries season in itself. That is a huge portal of birthing, new beginnings, the dynamism of spring, and everything just pulsing forward with new life, increased daylight hours as we look towards the summer, and the burst in nature that we now start to see a lot of green. It's a really fresh, new energy time. It's a great time. So the first new moon of the year. So in UK time, British summertime, it's around 8 o'clock in the evening. And the new moon in Aries is all about us accessing our pure, potent potential, our positive power, because Aries likes to start things, it likes to lead, it likes to be bold and courageous and get things done and started. So any areas of our life that we really want to bring in more energy, more action, we can really utilize the energy this weekend. Now, of course, we are the powerful creators and co-creators with the universe. So the astrology isn't doing this for us. It's just that the astrology has this flow of this energy with this potency at this time for us to jump on board with. We can ride these waves of energy and put our action and our intentions and our manifestations into them so that they are carried through. And we're planting new seeds basically in this time, and it's a really great time to do so. It's actually metaphorically and physically a great time for planting seeds, isn't it? If we think we've just had spring equinox and we've got this really ripe, fertile ground, both physically and metaphorically, for everything we want to create and bring in. So we can think about the new lunar month ahead. Now, this is transferable to any new moon. At any new moon, we have an opportunity to set intentions and to set perhaps our action tasks and our practical goals and how we're going to achieve those for the lunar month ahead. This month, we can think about also perhaps the whole year ahead. We've also got the Year of the Dragon 2024, big dynamic energy. And if you're interested in that portal of energy that's still spanning this entire year, we've done a lovely podcast on the Year of the Dragon. And the dragons have such a beautiful, dynamic, progressive, mystical, but energetic vibe. And so I really enjoyed doing that podcast. If you want to check that out, that's available on KindaSound.org. And we talked a lot more about the Year of the Dragon in that episode. But we've got all of these huge potentials. And for riding the back of this energy is amazing, guys. It really is fun, fab, fast energy. So new moons generally, we can plant our seeds of intention for the new lunar month ahead. But this weekend we can, and in the run up as well, because new moons generally, the energies work really well 2 days before and 2 days after. That's kind of our manifestation period. And it's the same when we're looking at utilizing full moon energy, which in contrast is about releasing and letting go of what doesn't serve us, ready for the new phase again, which we're in now, of building the new and moving forward and creating. So we've got the huge portal of the new moon. We've got the fact that it's the first new moon of the year. We've got the Year of the Dragon, bringing dynamic energy for our highest potential, for stepping into our light, for being courageous. We've got a huge cluster of planets in Aries, a powerhouse of planets of this courageous, bold, dynamic energy. We've also got, and at the time of this transmission, it's the 4th of the 4th. So when this broadcasts on the 5th, we will still be in the energy of the 4th of April. Now that's numerology, but all of numbers can be really special when they're together. So with 4-4 energy, we've got a portal there, and the same can come up with any double or triple numbers. It might be something you notice yourself, might be something that you're interested in. And numerology is a separate topic, but there is this huge portal of all of these aspects going on at this time. Now, I like a lady called Joanne Scribe on the internet who talks about angel numbers, and had a little look, and 4-4 is all about independence and self-encouragement and building a solid foundation. So I just find it fascinating and synchronous how we have all of these themes kind of feeding into each other and enhancing each other really beautifully, that we can really get on the back of at the moment and really utilize for thriving. So the Aries new moon, so let's bring it back to this weekend and the specifics now of the Aries new moon. So as I touched on, it's really about getting in touch with our passions and our purpose. Aries is at the point of the zodiac at the very beginning. It's the birth of a new baby. If we imagine the whole zodiac wheel as a life cycle, it starts with Aries, and that's a real potent time. You imagine the energy of the birth of a baby or the birth of a new seed coming out of its pod. You know, that energy, that propelling expansion into the world is a huge force. And that really lends itself to think about the nature of this time, this Aries energy. It's about leading. It's about bringing forward our highest self and our vision and acting upon it and claiming it. It's about being bold, courageous, really stepping into our positive power. Those are all really great uses of energy. And when we think about the time of manifestation, and this can be transferable to any period, we want to think about what's for our highest good and our highest choices and our highest potential. Now, often, sometimes for us, and I've definitely been guilty of this, and it's a practice I keep coming back to, is we often forget that we can have it all. We can have our highest dreams and our highest potential and our highest desires met and manifested in our lives. But sometimes we forget over time, over traumas, over life events, over, you know, the circumstances perhaps of being busy and prioritizing different things. We can sometimes forget what really lights us up and what we're really here to claim for our highest good. Now, this energy is absolutely ripe at the moment for us to really get in touch with that. So if you are already working with a manifestation list, it's an amazing time to utilize it. If you're not sure of what you're wanting to bring in, then a really good way to get in touch with that is to think about what brings you the most joy, what lights you up, what feels easy and in flow to you. What would you love to follow more of if time or money or circumstances weren't an issue? It's following those things and trusting that we can have them, trusting that when a desire is in our field, it's a sign more than likely because it's for us. You know, I'm not one to believe that we have these desires that can't be met. That would be like the universe torturing us, which I don't believe happens. I think we have these desires deep in us to follow because they're for us. They're a calling, and we can really get in touch with that. So if you're not sure, really access your heart energy. And think of it in the highest potential terms. You know, we can really get bold here in claiming and reclaiming our power. It's great energy to do so. So for me, I've been working this week in terms of manifesting. I've actually done a physical vision board. This is something I have done on and off over the years, but I hadn't done it for a while. So I've now got my vision board. And what that is, for those who don't know or haven't worked with one yet, is it's a place where you can keep everything together in your mind's eye and in the actual physical, bringing it into the physical. So it becomes not just in your mind's eye, but actually in your environment, and you can see it regularly for what you're working to bring in. Now, this isn't just a woo-woo fluffy thing of, you know, making wishes. There is actually psychology and quantum physics behind this. So don't just take my word for it. You can go and research it. But to have in our physical environment something that we see regularly will remind our brains, and then it connects us to the energy of those things, which brings it physically into our reality. So get really clear on what it is you're wanting to bring in, and then create a place. Mine just looks like an A3 sheet. I've got pictures, physical photographs on it. I've written bullet points on it of the things that I am working on and creating and bringing into my reality. So get specific with figures, with how you want your week to look, how you want your business to look, how you want your relationships to look, however it is for you, whatever the callings are that are at your core, that are asking to be birthed, birth them into being. This weekend is an amazing time to birth them into being, with starting with something like a vision board. Now, for me, I find that the most potent energy is on the exact peak of the moon cycles, and then a couple of days after. So although I've already started working on my vision board, and I actually now work on thinking about and listening to my vision every day that I've recorded. So I've been doing that for some time anyway, because that just keeps the energy alive, keeps it really fresh. It keeps me motivated to keep writing and that kind of thing. But also I will be lighting a candle and reading out my intentions and my manifestations either on the evening of the new moon or in the 2 days after. So I'm just giving you that real tangible how to do your manifestations if you're not someone who's already doing them. Because we can hear this term and think, what actually is it? You know, we're just making wishes and hoping they come true. Well, it's not that. It's maybe starts with that, and then we actually bring it into reality. It's a little bit like if we're manifesting more money, for example, we would have different bits of money around the house, even if it's just, you know, change note or a small amount of notes or a number of coins, because what that does is it teaches the brain to get used to seeing more money in your environment. A lot of us come from a sense of lack or a poverty consciousness. You know, this stuff has been conditioned in many of us for a long, long time, and it's up to us now. We're able to take our power back. It's a really fascinating time to be alive. So with some of that reprogramming, we're reconditioning our brains. We're almost reparenting ourselves. If you weren't shown that, you know, abundant energy, if you weren't shown that you can go after your desires and you can create your reality, then it's up to us now to bring that in and reprogram that. And it's something that the energy is really, really hot for right now. So on that note, we're going to have our first song break, and this is High Hopes by Panic at the Disco.
KindaSound Radio, the station for a global community.
Welcome back to the KindaSound Astrology Show with me, Stella Grace. We're here every Friday at 10 talking about a different topic in astrology and, of course, bringing you the astrological weather for the week. We will be replaying the following day at the same time, and we will also be having a podcast brought out soon after the show so you can catch up. Now, a lot of the information that we share in these podcasts is general and really can transfer very well to life generally and at other times and other moon cycles, for example. So that's always worth something to catch up on. There's always extra little gems in here that transfer to life generally, not just time sensitive astrological weather info, although we're going to cover some of that too in a sec, which I'm really excited about. And this weekend, no least. So we've been discussing the new moon in Aries and all of that fire dynamic energy. The element of fire itself has the capacity to bring passion and creation and creativity and intuition. So we're really riding on the back of that energy this weekend in a really, really big way. Now, of course, fire energy can also destruct. We can also, destroy things and burn things and clear out clutter as well. So if we think about it in that way, although it's a new moon and we're bringing in our creations and our manifestations, sometimes there can be some really good use spent in clearing out the old first. And again, this dynamic energy will help you to do that so we can clear space to move forward, basically. And it's a really, really good time for that. I talk a little bit more about that in the podcast, The New Beginnings of Spring Equinox. We're still in that energy as well. We're still very much in New Year energy, as we were saying. And I know some people celebrate New Year energy on the 1st of April. To me, it's all around this spring equinox time, this Aries energy, this new beginnings. It's an amazing time for getting things going, clearing out the old or not looking back, and then moving forward with this dynamic energy. Now, the eclipse this weekend in Aries, it's actually a solar eclipse, meaning that it appears basically that the moon blocks out the sun in our vision. We won't see it here in the UK as much. It's going to be more so Canada and the USA way, but we will feel the impact. Now, there's been a lot of fear energy around this, and it's very similar actually to retrograde fear, which we're going to talk about in a minute as well, because I've also covered the topic reframing retrogrades recently on this, and eclipses are quite similar in the sense of they are these incredible portals of energy for transformation, for change, for ascension, for awakening, for manifestation, for all of these things. It's big, big, potent energy. And as I've mentioned before, sages and seers and visionaries and wise ones will have over eons seen these portals as alignments, as powerful times to come together, to do rituals, to honor the earth, to honor the sky, all of these incredible things. And of course, over time, what's been really interesting, there's also grown fear of them. Now, my personal view, my musings are that this is probably not by accident. If we think about how the witch wound, for example, many, many eons ago, women and men who lived as witches, that just means they lived simply in nature's organic cycles. They lived sufficiently from the land. They lived knowing their own power. They lived in unity. And actually what got changed over time is with the rise of patriarchy and with fear energy, fear of that power, it was then suppressed or demonized. And I think the same kind of messages have come up with these astrological alignments over time, over many, many years. And what we see is, interestingly, I've seen this currently at play. It's been really fascinating to me this week. I've had conversations, and it wasn't until I came away from chatting with someone the other day, I realized how much fear energy there was at play, talking about the eclipse that's out there at the moment. And I think there's no accident behind this. I would put money on the fact that I'm sure, leaders of this time, maybe governments, maybe the powers that be, will be aware of these astrological times, will be aware of these key dates, will probably have always been. And either there's fear around them because there's the understanding, or perhaps they're utilizing those energies. But whatever the case, I just think it's highly curious. And isn't that amazing about being human? We get to be curious, we get to ask questions, and this is also part of us coming back to our own power. And this is what this energy is really, really aligned for. And as is wider astrology as well. We've got Pluto in Aquarius still rumbling on for the next 2 decades. That really is about big changes in structures, huge changes in a push, but going back to a place of more freedom, of more unity, because those are Aquarius themes. And so what we've got really in my mind playing out is the systems that are currently still perhaps leading but are on their way out, the systems that are not fit for purpose collapsing. And actually what we've got is more of a call towards unity that's within ourselves and with each other, this pure personal power that is just so potent in my mind this weekend and generally. So it's a really, really interesting time. And I just feel like there's never a better time to reclaim our power, transmute the fear, just not buying into the fear energy of what these dates might bring. These dates are fascinating in terms of the portals of energy and increasing our consciousness. So it's no surprise to me that they're banded around. And I think it's up to us to really utilize them. And we actually get to choose. We might hear things that are scary, or we might even feel the fear. And it's sometimes about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. I think there's a really beautiful part of fear, actually. Sometimes fear can be present when we're growing, when we're coming out of a comfort zone, when we're trying something new. And absolutely, like the ascension path can be really filled with those nuggets of fear when we're stepping up or stepping out all the time, growing into the next best version of ourselves. And you might notice that with some of your manifestation energy. It can feel scary because I've noticed in my own life, it can be, there's more fear around being successful sometimes than fear around staying the same. That's not new. If we stay as we are, that's not the unknown. But actually, the call of evolution and the call of development and the call of these energies are calling us to step up, step out, lead, become the next best version of ourselves. Be bold, be courageous, claim the new path that's for you. It might look very different to the path that you've been on. And for some of us, that is really scary. So it's really about embracing that fear and doing it anyway, nurturing ourselves through it along the way. And in that way, we can really reframe any fear energies. And other than that, we want to kind of disregard fear. We really want to be on our paths, doing our thing, claiming all this amazing energy and claiming ultimately the power within ourselves. So on the note of fear energy, we're going to listen to the lovely Shake It Out by Florence and the Machine.
KindaSound, tuning in for change.
Welcome back to the Astrology Show and Update with me, Stella Grace, here on KindaSound. We're here every Friday at 10. Now, we've been discussing new moon manifestations, the amazing solar eclipse that we are approaching rapidly, and huge transformational energy at this time. That's an incredibly powerful and opportunistic portal to jump on board with. We've got the year of the dragon behind the scenes at play. We've got 4 energy yesterday. So an incredible time of following purpose, following passions, following dynamism, being bold, being courageous, leading and stepping out into our highest places of potential. So let's get into the astrological weather for the week. Aside from all of that, we've also got Mercury retrograde. Now, as I've touched on with reframing and re-looking at fear and different energies of the eclipse, because the eclipses are really about an opportunity for transformation, as we've said, and as in a previous podcast. But also retrogrades provide a lot of opportunity and they get a really bad rap too. So we do have Mercury in retrograde at this time for a couple more weeks yet as well. But I've been doing some videos lately because, again, I just think this fear energy that's around retrogrades, we can really shift and actually open up some potential in. So reframing retrogrades, yes, there can be travel delays. Yes, there can be technical hitches. Yes, there can be miscommunications. And you might even discover something come up from the past or somebody come back around from your past. And all of this is not to torment us, believe it or not. It's actually to offer us the opportunity of slowing down. So retrograde energy is all about really kind of tuning into our inner world rather than it being all about the external output of the busyness all the time. Now, certainly here in the West, we're all very kind of used to racing around 40+ hour weeks. The retrograde, unfortunately, isn't going to offer most workplaces the opportunity to stop for 3.5 weeks. So it's about looking after ourselves around that. If we only have a minimum of a 5 to 10 minute daily practice, then that is, still a great cultivation of that time within as a minimum. Ideally, we'd have an hour a day to kind of recharge and pull back, because especially with all this other dynamic energy that's going on, we also need to really cultivate that time within for at least some point in the day, each day, to kind of really utilize, come back into alignment, really. So we're utilizing all the dynamic energy that's going on, but we also need to do that from a place that has a full cup, that is recharged and nourished and ready to move forward again in the world. There is so much energy for moving forward. So this is another interesting reminder to me that stopping for between 5 minutes or an hour, if you're lucky, or if you're lucky, if you can take an hour and claim that investment in yourself for an hour, which is an absolute investment, because we're very conditioned to not. But if you can claim that time for yourself for an hour, we are actually then able to be more creative, to be more dynamic, to then have more energy and action for our ventures. We need to cultivate that inner world as a priority. The other thing that's a really good thing to do, either in that time or additionally, it could be a part of slowing down and taking that time for yourself, is immersing yourself in nature. Now, this again is a really grounding, earthing, charging effect in itself, and it really kind of nourishes and fills our cup. So that's another really great thing to do. Yes, for Mercury retrograde that's going on at the moment, but this again is also transferable to any retrograde energy, and actually any day, any time. It's really about soothing ourselves first, so we're better of service to others. You often hear that self-care is selfish, or people feeling guilty for taking time, people feeling guilty for like having time off in the day, or doing something that's slow in the middle of the day. Some that can be quite unheard of, but actually whenever the time is that you can do it, it's just a great thing to utilize and really again reframe that thinking of that you're doing something wrong, or that there's somehow that it needs to be the output is external before on ourselves. Actually, it's the other way around. We're of better service to our friends, family, the collective. That ripple effect actually goes out stronger and in a more conducive and better way of service to others when we have filled our own cup first. So I love that about retrograde energy, and we will see that over the next couple of weeks, and we'll really feel the benefits of that if we can utilize that one. We've also got at the moment, so I'm looking at the new moon chart, so the eclipse chart for this week of the 8th. And obviously you've got the sun and the moon conjunct there in Aries. And I'm going to talk about that. We've got a huge powerhouse of 6 planets there in Aries. And I'm going to come on to talk about that in a moment. A couple of other close conjunctions around that at this time on the new moon chart are Mars and Saturn in Pisces. They are conjunct. That means they're making a close relationship, and those energies are synergizing each other at the same time as the new moon. Now, Mars and Saturn Saturn are two masculine energies in the zodiac. So Saturn brings us a slowing down again and a discipline. So that's an interesting kind of enhancement to what's happening with Mercury retrograde. It's a slowing down. It's a making sure that we've, covered all our bases and are disciplining ourselves in the right way. And that's conjunct with Mars, the planet of action and doing and going. And Mars is in Pisces, which is really slowing it down and giving it this real watery depth of healing and faith and more matters of the collective, which Mars isn't massively happy there, really. So Mars is being invited to slow down. So again, we've got this another example of this contradiction in the sky at the moment between this dynamic force of fire energy and slowing down and taking stock. And actually, it's a beautiful balance. And I think that's probably the biggest message of reframing retrogrades, really, and thinking about all of these energies is really balancing yourself within this and within the changing world around us. So that's another good use of that balance there to bring in. We've also still got, and this is going to be rumbling on for a little while, Uranus and Jupiter together in a conjunction in Taurus. Now, again, similarly to Pluto in Aquarius energy, we've got big changes in our structures because it's Taurus and Uranus is bringing in that change. So, and it's usually big changes as well. So we've got this big time of real expansion and looking at how we and our structures are moving forwards for the better. And again, in a more unified way, because Uranus is a change maker, but it's also a liberator. And it also thinks a lot about the collective. So that's super exciting as well. Now, lastly, I'm going to finish on this Aries powerhouse of planets, not least than 6 planets in the amazing fire sign of Aries and all this dynamic new energy that we have. So we've got Mercury in retrograde in Aries. Now that will be, as we've said, slowing down our thinking time, offering us that introspection opportunity, and it's doing so in that dynamic way. So we want to be thinking about how we can move forward with our new projects and ventures and our personal purposes and our power in a considered way first. Then we've then got, of course, the sun and the moon conjunct, which is the new moon and the eclipse. And together they are highlighting really a time of moving forward with oneself in a dynamic, independent way. That's really good use of Aries energy. We've also got, this is an exact conjunction. So this is a really heightened energy. This new moon is actually incredibly healing because it's exactly conjunct to Chiron, the wounded healer. Now, again, any issues or areas that are coming up as, triggers or wounds or areas of niggle are absolutely opportunities to bring us more into alignment and to be healed to move through. Now we're already completely whole and not broken. And I really love this again, it's another reframe, this analogy about healing. Healing doesn't have to happen because there's anything broken. We're not broken. It's just about bringing forward the next best layer of ourselves for feeling in the most well state we can on every level, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And so Chiron on the moon, exactly at the time of this eclipse, not only is offering all of this transformational properties, but it's incredibly healing as well. So any areas that may be feeling a little bit funky for you or anything that's off or niggling for your attention, use it as a real healing opportunity. What can be shown to this to support it further this time round if something's been coming round again? What new wisdom do we have to give to this issue that's vying for our attention? How have we grown from this issue? What are the gifts from this issue? All of these questions are really interesting things to think about at this time. It's also a very fated time. Now, eclipses always bring the hands of fate and destiny, and we've got the North Node in Aries as well, next to Chiron and the moon there. And this is about, again, a huge dose of moving forward with purpose and potential and with our independence. This is an amazing time to be looking at how we may have been more dependent on or overtly dependent on others or situations or circumstances. And this is a real, again, going back to the beginning of this conversation, a reclamation of our power with the North Node in Aries. That's an incredible way of utilizing this energy. Now, it's not to say that we will be complete lone wolves and we won't be accessing support or we will be ending all our relationships. Of course, that's not realistic or possible, nor would we want to. It's not about that, but it's about where have we become reliant or looked externally for validation. That's another huge one. And where can we reclaim our power by being authentic, by being courageous, by looking at what's for us on our path ahead? So it's really, really beautiful energy for reclaiming positive personal power. And I absolutely love that. And so with this huge fireball of Aries, I think it's an amazing time to think about moving forwards and to end on our final song with POD and Alive, and one that I absolutely love. It's just got such a great energy, this song, for moving forwards and for feeling alive. I just love it. I'll look forward to seeing you next week on the Astrology Show. Much love.